Thank you everyone for having made you come here in spite of the pandemic. I know we couldn't call more people because of the government regulations, but anyway, thank you so much. And I have to thank all of you who are on Zoom. Even one of our classmates from school, Padmini, is there on Zoom from Australia. And of course, there are many more of them. We are very happy that Malliga, yeah, that's another person from Australia, but I think there are a lot of other people from other parts of the world also joined in. I can't read all of it anyway. Uh, for me, my earliest memory of mum was in NIB? Uh, uh, okay. The earliest time was in Anantapur. I remember that in Andhra. I think most of you know that dad was in the bank and so had to be transferred quite often, and Babu and Feli were already with Suguna Perima initially and then with Edith Perima for their studies. But we were both with Amma and Appa all the time, and so we didn't have proper schools in many of these places. So I think the first homeschooling was done those days by mummy. We never went to a school like Edith Verma till the 3rd standard, but mummy taught us at home. She would make us sit at a dining table and teach us from a small book called Peep of Day, which had the scripture lessons in it. And then I think she just taught us the basics of maths, Tamil and English. That's what I vaguely remember. But she would make us sit at the dining table and run into the kitchen and do part of the cooking, then come back and teach us. Somehow I think that basic thing that she taught us is what saw us through to the end. So that was a very interesting part of our life. And then of course we had to go to school anyway. And so I feel she was not only a good mother but a good teacher. And then like Getsika was saying, she was a fantastic cook. And so much so, when at the later stages, when mummy started having cooks, we'd beg her to please do at least the non-veg for us. And then wait to see when the cook would take off. And she must have been miserable without a cook, trying to feed 4 children, a husband, wife, everybody. But that is how we loved her cooking. Then when dad was in State Bank also, I remember Sundays, like Getsika was saying that ghee rice was a speciality, and I remember there were 2 Tamil bachelor boys. So Appa used to feel sorry for them, and so he used to say, call them over. So they used to say, if Sunday afternoons we never had our lunch, we'll be waiting for daddy to make a call to ask them to come. So that's how hospitable they were, you know. Anytime they made anything special, they always wanted to share with somebody. I remember one of Rajan's cousins also, she used to go to Shanti Prakasan. She used to go visit my parents. But she would say, Cheruba, are they at home? She'd call me and ask. I said, yeah, they must be. And she'll say, I don't want to tell them, because the minute I say it, your mummy will run into the kitchen to do the cooking. And this was when she was much older. And your father will go out to buy something and come. So we just want to go and sit with them and talk to them. And then, of course, mummy was a full-fledged doctor. Though she didn't practice much, as she had to keep going around with Appa. But because of her medical background, we never had to go to a doctor. And I think the first time I went to a doctor was when I was in college and had to have my appendix removed. And then Getsika, of course, did tell you about her hand with cross stitches. I still have so many hanging in my house, and then she used to make beautiful borders for my towels, which I don't even feel like using now, but I've slowly started using, because I mean, otherwise it's nearly 15 years already, so I have to use them, you know. And then Getsika also told about the magazine, where she used to get quite a few magazines and try to do the quiz and the crossword and that. And the most interesting was, Daddy would say, it is okay if you have to go to the kitchen and cook a little later also, but I want you to finish first, because in some of the magazines, the names came according to their order of their answers reaching there. So Daddy used to be very proud to see her name right on top. And then another thing I really appreciate in my mother was the way I could go and open myself out to her totally, tell her whatever I wanted to do, wanted to say, unburden myself to her, and be 100% sure that she wouldn't she go and talk about it to anybody, not even to daddy. She'll just ponder it in her heart and pray for me, and she would not even ask me what happened unless I went back and said, okay, mummy, this problem is solved or whatever. Once in a way, very gently, without being judgmental, she'd tell me what I should do. So that is something I really miss, somebody who can just talk to without even thinking what you're going to say. And then she would, of course, always say, whatever the problem is, pray. That's all you have to do. Just pray. I sometimes used to get even a little irritated saying, what is this prayer? When I'm asking her for some kind of a help, but now I know, now I can see that it is only prayer that works. And she set an example by her prayer life also. And also another very important thing was she taught me how to forgive anybody and everybody, whatever harm they did to you or said something, and they were totally rude to her and didn't even see her for some time or anything. But she had such a forgiving spirit. She would go out of her way to go back to those people, and I know there were people who were so touched by it, and even adults have come crying to her because she was so gentle and forgiving. And one interesting fact about her was, nobody could correct her English. She'll say, I speak the Queen's English. Nobody can correct my English. And of course she will be correct in every, and I know from her I learned to use, where I should use me and I. There's being a difference there, that is something that she taught me. And at one stage, it was just daddy's one income, but she was so frugal. But I remember people saying, these children are so well dressed, even though they don't have too many clothes or anything like that. In school, Angela, remember, we used to be called forward as examples of children who were smartly dressed in their uniforms. And she could vibe with all generations. People who are older to her, her age group, younger to her. I think my children and their friends have really enjoyed that hospitality with her. I know one of Raji's friends used to say, "Day, I see you in college every day. Na Pata vadanda paaka vande." And one of them would always call her Pata just the way my children called her, and then Kalpana's friends would go out from, dress up from our house and go out, and they would come and Kalpana would want to show off to mummy. Of course, sometimes daddy may not have liked the kind of clothes she wore, but mummy would always admire. And I remember one of the girls, another girl also, she would also come and say, Fatima, is my clothes also? Do you like my dressing also? And I mean, that kind of, she was never judgmental, whatever happened. It was, that was such a nice thing which I again learned from her. Even now, fleeting seconds, sometimes they say, when I go back home, I must tell my mother. It's just a fleeting thought, but, or if I ask her, she will know the answer for this. That kind of a thing. And then she was very close to her siblings, constantly in touch with all of them. Those days it was letters, every day letters, inland letters to some of them, and otherwise it was postcards at least. And Peri auntie always, that is the eldest, Samuel would call her my darling princess in all her letters. That is how it was addressed. And Sugna Perima and Cross Peripa were, who were the Babu and Feli's second parents for a long time. After that, they of course went to Edith Perima's house. And daddy would say the Babu's and Feli's discipline started only with them. More than what he taught them, it was Cross Peripa's house in their very young ages that they learned there, And Lily Perima, of course, Mum and Lily Perima at one stage, when Mummy or Dad came finally to Chennai, they'd go off for this Adi Tallupadi sale and go happily buying pattu saris. And then during Lent, Edith Perima and she would call on the phone and say, are you making the puli sadam, or shall I make the takali sadam and all that, and take every Lent. They used to go to Boaz auntie's Lenten retreat in Gandhi Mandapam. That was a big, interesting, and I remember them saying, even in their earlier days when they were in Chennai, they used to very often meet in each other's houses. I think Amma and Appa were somewhere in Mylapore or someplace, and they used to meet each other very often. And similarly, Sundaraj Mama, when we were in Tambaram, one of us was in West Tambaram, the other in East Tambaram, and we were all very close. And of course, Kamala Perima, when we were in Vellur, and they were in, what was that, Katpadi. There again, we were all very close with all of them. And Frank Mama, of course, he was somebody very different. Any wedding in the family, he and Atta would always be there without any fuss. And Atta would not even come to the weddings. She'll be there looking after the kitchen, because those days it was not this kind of catering. We never had it. We had to do it all at home. And Edwin Mama was very special to Appa, because it seems in very young he had a bad kidney problem, and somebody said he may not even be able to go to work, and Daddy told him, it seems I remember Edwin Mama telling me when he came for Feli's engagement, it seems Daddy said, don't worry Edwin, if you cannot go and work, you are welcome in my house, I will look after you to the end. And of course Vijaya Chitti also, right up to the end, Appa would constantly write postcards to her, and she would reply. We were that kind of they were so close to each other. That was really great. And okay, anything more that I have to say? Quickly, I'll finish. Yeah, she gave up. Yeah, like somebody, I think Feli also said that she gave up so much for the 5 of us, and that is something I feel even this generation, the generation after us should learn. Once you get married, you don't live for yourself. It is for the family. That is what she did. Though she was a doctor, she never practiced much. And even now, they stayed in a bedroom on the ground floor. I feel it is a very sacred place, because constant prayers were going up from there every day and night. And even when she used to say, even in her younger days, when she was cooking, she would send little arrow prayers. She'd think of each of the child, or the daughter-in-law and the son-in-law, or the grandchildren, and send out little arrow prayers. They were all examples of a very quiet but very prayerful life. Even now, I'm sure they are watching from above and smiling down on us, and on bended knees, pleading with God for all our needs. Though it is 16 long years since they were taken from our side, they are forever in our hearts. Love you forever, Mum and Dad, the only 2 people who always loved me with unquestioning and unconditional love. Thank you.